I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Deciphering My Experience. I am joined today again with Akvile Sava and also Rich West from richwest.net, correct? richwest.net. I remembered it. But today we're just going to have a discussion on some topics that Akvile and I have been going over because I'm aware that Rich is also into the different aspects of life and things that are abnormal, I guess you would say, or I say abnormal. That gets people angry. They like the word paranormal nowadays, but the word doesn't bother me. I say it all the time that I've had an abnormal life.
Okay.
But welcome, Rich. Welcome, Akvile.
Thank you.
I am going to see. I had a video clip here that I wanted to try to pull up. It was a clip that was just in the news recently. Let me switch up here my screen. It was let's see, are you guys seeing that?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet, huh? Let's pull it up like that. Now you are, right?
No.
No. All right, let me back out of this plan then.
It's we've used screen share a lot. Have you used screen share?
No, I was trying to pull it in a different capacity here.
Oh, okay.
Let me see something. Oh, I know what I did wrong, I think. Now, oh, geez, Louise. Never mind, guys. We'll save that for another time. But basically, the news thing was remote viewing. And it was 2 years ago, they were discussing that Russell Targ, Hal Puthoff, and a bunch of the guys from the program had a seminar where they were teaching people how to do remote viewing again. And it kind of just brought everybody's, I guess, thoughts to the table. And I was surprised to see it out publicly. And Rich, I know you have a skill set, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's different from Akvile's, correct?
Yeah, Akvile's is different than mine.
Okay.
We make.
Do you also go out of body?
Yeah. I've been out of body many times.
Okay,
yeah.
10-4. So then this is not something new to you at all, then, that you've experienced it from your perspective?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When would your recollection be that you go back to having this skill set? Either you've had it forever, or was there a time that you regained it?
Well, when I was about 15 years old, I used to walk just down the sidewalk at night going, oh, and I'd stare up at the stars, and this yearning, this desire. I had no idea what it was at the time. But I wanted something more, and it was out there. And then I not too long later, I had my first fall asleep, sleep paralysis, the vibrations, the intense fear. You feel like you're going to die, and you snap yourself out of the the sleep paralysis state, and go. But then it happened. I fell back to sleep, and it happened again. Scared. I thought I was going to. I woke up, and then I said, if this happens again, I'm going to go with it. I just feel it. Something. I'm only 15 years old, no education, nothing paranormal, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
just felt it, if it happens again, I'm going to go with it. And so I confronted the fear. It did happen again. I got the vibrations. It sounds like a buzz saw, a skill saw, cutting through wood in your garage, but inside your head, and that intense.
Interesting.
Scary. Yeah. So anyway, it passed, and it's dead silent. And what I didn't know at the time, but I did a phase shift, and now I'm hearing with my astral ears. I'm seeing with if I'd opened my eyes, I would have been seeing with my astral eyes. But I was out of phase with the physical world, and I could hear people. They were, yay, did it. Anyway, it just went from there. I always wanted to get out of body after that. And I read a book, a novel where the guy falls asleep in a mountain cabin and he wakes up in another world. One of these barbarian world sort of adventure novels of a series. And so I read that and I go, I believe that's true. That can really happen. I just know it. And that started me off, man. I just kept looking until I found how to get out of body. Wow. And then I started getting out a lot.
Yeah. And who was in, like, you have met Akvile. Have you met other people besides yourself and Akvile that do this?
You mean
like in your past? When was the first time you met someone else? Because I only know that you know Akvile that does this, but in your waking state, like, have you crossed paths with other people that do this? Because I have yet to.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, no, a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to walk around. I went back to college, in my 30s, and so I was really right into the whole getting out of body all the time. And so one day I said, hey, I just thought I'll just ask, hey, have you ever had an out of body experience? Hey, have you ever had an out of body experience? Yeah. Not everybody, but
fair enough. Yeah, because I imagine even a lot of folks have them but don't really associate anything to it other than the dreaming and things like that. Seems to fit my brain. I mean, I think that's the error that I've been doing for quite some time, is that, when I've been out of body before, I presumed it to be dreaming. And, I'm sure they can be quite similar, but they're also distinctly different.
They're absolutely different. As a state of consciousness, hey, I am not dreaming. I am really here. And you have an awareness and a knowing that you have a physical body somewhere else. But yeah, and most people have had at least one out of body experience in their life, but they don't really talk about it much because who's going to listen, right? But yeah, through my years of experience with this, I noticed that, I'd say probably at least 70% of the people have had at least one. And most of them recognized it as an out-of-body experience.
Are there any markers or cues that you guys could inform us on that people could try to identify to help them discern whether they're in the state of an out-of-body experience or just a standard dream?
You want to? You start. Okay. Yeah, it has to do with how awake you are. How awake you are here. You fall asleep. You spiritually fall asleep first. You fall asleep. Your psychic, spiritual self, and then your physical body falls asleep right after. Now, in an out-of-body experience, you wake up and the body stays asleep. Okay, and you're wide awake. In a dream, you fall asleep. The body falls asleep. Now you're sort of half awake-ish, not quite spiritually awake. And you're having an experience, and you wake up from it and you go, wow, interesting dream. Now, you can compare this to, let's say, you went out partying and you drank too much and you really got wasted, but you still partied all night long. And you wake up in the morning and you don't remember except maybe the first hour of a 6-hour party. You don't remember because you weren't awake enough during your party time. You were more asleep. You were knocked out. You were on by the alcohol.
Woke up on the booze.
Yeah, and so during the experience, you're not awake enough to easily recall it. So it is in dreams. When you have a dream, you're not awake enough in the dream to recall it clearly. And the memory of it feels, we relate it to the dream. Oh, this is a dream. I had this thing happen, and we call it a dream. And it's a vague, or sometimes it's a crystal clear, but mostly it's kind of a memory, a little piece of it here and a piece here, and it doesn't really make sense all the time. But there's that, the essence of the memory of the experience, while the physical body's asleep and you're having the experience, we call that dream. Now, the distinction or difference between a dream, a lucid dream, and an out-of-body experience is how awake you are in the moment while you're having the experience. Regular dream, everybody knows what that's like. Lucid dream, you're wide awake in the dream and you know you're dreaming.
10-4.
So but it's still a dream. There's another level of wakefulness. You wake up even more and you go, whoa, 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 this is not just a dream. I am really here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a level of knowingness that comes along with the level of awareness and consciousness. And you're just able to experience the difference. And you go, yeah, I was out of body. You know, where I was, I don't know what you call it. I don't know, but I was not in my physical body yet. I was wide awake. So I know I'm not a physical being only. And there's more to life and experience than the physical world. Because normally when a person's out of body like that, they will see an environment, touchy-feely, trees or people or different things. Mm-hmm. That's normal. You can see all kinds of things, the void, the blackness, the deepness, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. I guess like a few of the things that I would add is that there's this big difference in perception, and it's kind of like amplified when you're out of body. For example, like when you're walking on the street, you smell way more than on Earth. Like right now, like, you know, whether you have a flu or you're like normal, you smell things and like, yeah, it's just kind of like in between, like, yeah, it's okay. But out there, it's just coming at you from every single direction. You can smell flowers from miles away. It's kind of like having an ability to like program yourself as a character. Like, let's say having the eagle vision where you see a normal like a human, but then you can zoom in for miles and miles and see like what's really far away, like some like Nikon camera, and sort of like zooming out. And another thing, like, you know, like let's say if there's a wall, you can shove your hand through the wall, feeling every single particle, feeling the density and how like it is. It's like it's one of those things, and at the same time, it's kind of like when communicating with other people. If you meet like humans out there, like not necessarily humans, like but whatever avatar they have. Literally, like I had a few times where I exchanged emails, like, "Hey, where are you from?" And like, "Oh, from Earth." Okay, like we basically found out like one guy's from Japan. We exchanged emails, and next time he writes to me. So like, it's, you know, it just happens. Like, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling like when you guys are saying this, right, that like the way my brain is hearing it is that when we're our spirit, whatever the heck it is, our energetic aspect, is fully recognizing that it's in our body. It maintains limits, and that when it separates, we just simply don't maintain those limits. And I don't know what that means, but apparently we have more potentials, and you guys exercise them regularly to I guess show it off for the rest of us. But effectively, these things can happen. And does that make sense? That it's just the body is just a limitation? It's a material that we have to function in the physics of the body whilst in it?
Yeah, well, from my experience, the physical body is it's superimposed with an astral body, or you would call it a second body or an energetic body. And when you leave this one, when this one falls asleep, you can lift up and walk away from this one, and you're in another body. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will still have similar limits, like you're saying. They will be in the body. If they want to walk somewhere, they walk in the body. Mm-hmm. But they can fly, for example. Depends on where they're at and their own case. They can either fly or not fly. They can either walk through the walls or they can't. So everybody's different in that way. But what you do find out with some experience, if you get out more often and get to explore and experiment, you start finding out more about the multiverse, and how when you start interacting with the people in these other worlds, you ask them questions. You say, hey, when I leave here, do I have a body that stays here, or does it disappear? And or you ask somebody, hey, do you have a physical body in the physical world? Yeah. Somebody else, hey, I'm from the physical world universe, never heard of it. Somebody else, yeah, from the physical universe. And they go, oh, you poor guy, you know, you'll meet all kinds. And you start learning, my gosh, this is vast. It's very exciting.
I feel like, you know, that there's a lot of disclosures in movies and things like that for sure. But in my mind's eye, I'm very comfortable with the cosmos just being like Star Wars. That there's just tons of stuff every which way but loose, and people fighting over resources out there just like we do here. That it's that simple and complex all at once.
Yeah, it's almost like that movie's a documentary more than it is anything else, because those wars are they're happening out there.
Yeah, there's more and more stuff that we're learning about with even just time and space travel and technology and what's potentially available. I shouldn't even say potentially, what's actually going on now. I just watched a great movie. I should actually put it in the links below this. That it was the movie that I'm talking about now is called Third Eye Spies, and it's Russell Targ put it out to basically open the door on everything that they were doing. Yeah, it's really good. I'll put it in the links under this for everybody to watch. So Third Eye Spies, take a look. It really cracks the dam on what these guys were doing. And I will do what do they call it? A spoiler alert right now. So be careful. There's two things that were brought up in this movie that were savagely important that I've never heard mentioned before. And they said that it was in the early 70s that one of the remote viewers, it was either Pat Price or Joe McMoneagle, one of those two, I forget which one, but one of those guys remote viewed these big 60-foot round steel balls that they called gores. And they just very rapidly went over saying that the gores were used to hold the nuclear waste from the particle beam accelerator the Soviets were using to take down American satellites.
Wow.
Yeah. So, folks, that's been going on since the 70s. Everybody's talking about Star Wars and what technologies. They're doing it. They've always been doing it. Tesla told us a bunch of stuff a long time ago, and the rich people just started doing it behind closed doors. So,
exactly.
Yeah, the Soviets had particle beam lasers they were shooting into space in the early 70s, and we had psychics figuring it out, folks. Like this is reality. This is the stuff that like they make movies about.
Exactly right. Totally.
Yeah, and then the other fascinating fact, this one I love, was that Pat Price in 1975 remote viewed that there was a massive underwater facility many kilometers off the coast of Libya, he said. And it was for training people to become experts in sabotage and other nefarious things. And he was dead 4 days later.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. He was previously on the payroll of SRI, which was under contract by the CIA to do all of these nefarious deeds. But the CIA decided that going through SRI was too much of a security concern. So they direct hired Pat Price. And he was dead within 4 months.
Yeah.
And no one's been discussing that part either. So I think what happened back then was that these dudes just got really, really good at what they were doing. The Soviets were already way ahead of them. And they learned that what Pat Price was doing was exceptional, and they took him out. I don't think our guys wanted him gone. I mean, you don't kill the goose that lays golden eggs.
Right, sure.
You know, but the enemy sure doesn't like that goose. So it was a great documentary, and remote viewing and the technologies and stuff, I think really would blow people's minds to know what's going on and all that free energy. And, you know, we should be jumping into portals and going to other planets. Like we shouldn't even have to go out of body to do that technically. Like we should be a lot closer to that in the here and now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's Project Looking Glass or something like that. It's time travel thing.
Mhm.
You know, the U.S. has stuff. The other side has stuff. The latest I heard was just yesterday that the timeline wars. Their side is jumping into the future or jumping into the past, and or jumping into the future, see how it plays out, and then jump back in the past, change it so it changes the now to go in their favor. Then this side has their looking glass future stuff, and they see what's going on. So they jump into the future and they see what it played out after they saw. Oh, they did a thing. Okay, now we're going to go. It's just crazy.
Yeah, this time war thing really is that one's intriguing to me because I'm a problem solver. I troubleshoot things. I do plumbing repairs. So when things are busted, I like fixing them and I like figuring out what the problem is. And I look into history and governments and social issues, and I try to fix things. I try to help. But boy, does the time war thing add some complexity to it, though, huh?
Oh yeah.
It's like just when you thought you were gaining ground. The other funny thing with the time wars and disclosure is that television show Dark that you were also a fan of. I love that show. Amazing show. I just saw there was a guest on that leak project with Rex Bear, and he was another person who was pumping the value of the show, but he went so far as to claim that he knows someone who claims to be a DoD time traveler, and that person recommended the show to him. So that he was just saying like, hey, I know this guy, whether you believe me or not, this guy said it was important. And I would say the same darn thing, is that show is really letting everybody know what's going on. And
Yeah.
I actually watched it in German, and Akvile, I would recommend you actually try that, both of you guys, because actually the translation's off in the English dub. Just so, I mean, if folks really want to know what the show's really about, you actually have to watch the German with the English subtitles. And I still question the accuracy of that. I wonder what's really going on in German, because I watched it both ways, and I know the English words that are spoken over don't match the original show as presented in text. So, and I lost connection with a lot of my German friends when I got thrown off of Facebook. Yeah. So I don't have my translators.
Yeah.
But that show, I don't know if Akvile had mentioned to you, I had told her last time we spoke that it was actually, I suggest that it's more disclosure is that the location is actually Shoreham, Long Island, that they're covering as the location. And that was Wardenclyffe. That was where Tesla's facility was on Long Island. They put the nuclear power plant on the property. And I think this goes like the show with the timelessness of things, and that energy, something happened here way back when, something happened here now, something's going to happen here in the future, that type of stuff. That location, there's something weird about that spot. And if Tesla says it was important to work on energies there, I'm going to believe him.
Yeah. Yeah. There's energy vortexes on the planet, and there's portals on the planet and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys and I mean, obviously you guys work with folks, and I know you can't divulge every darn thing out there because of client type stuff, but can you speak to the fact that, like, do you see more folks waking up to these things? Is there a change in the overall mentality of what you guys are experiencing on your end?
I think so, yeah. Like from the people I'm talking about, and specifically, you know, like we're talking about translations a little bit. Like I'm working as a translator, except like from Japanese and English into Lithuanian. So like I make sure like I try to get the proper message. And I see like a lot of kids are trying to see what's going on. Like, you know, like they're 12, 13, 14 years old, and they end up finding my YouTube channel, even though like I don't really talk about it, but like there's like this theme, like it's a bit of like escapism. But at the same time, a lot of people who are watching anime, they're like into the genre called isekai. And basically, when a person in the real world dies and then ends up reincarnating into the fantasy world, and there's a massive amount of people who want to leave the body and go into some fantasy world and meet some of their favorite characters, or just have some fun experiences. And I find like it's funny because let's say when we made videos, like Chris and I, about like how to get into the anime world using out of body,
Mhm.
this is one of our like most viewed videos. Like tons of people are watching it, just like a lot of young kids, and they really like are looking for ways. And once they find like ability to get out of body, they end up looking into the aliens, into the world, and all this stuff, and it just escalates into this massive self-disclosure.
That's kind of cool. So it's like it's the thought that cracks the dam, but it opens up the mind regardless. It's very interesting. And it's cool that you get to be that they're cracking the dam with the out of body then at the very least, because they're showing up like with a virgin mind, so to say. Like it's like a brand new way of looking at things. I imagine when you're talking about that age range, is that their first, I guess, moment of breaking out of the paradigm they were taught. You know, it's like a first original thought, maybe. That's kind of cool to be there for that.
I've been doing this stuff on YouTube for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got over 1,000 videos uploaded on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, you must have started when YouTube fired up, Rich.
Yeah, it was. I was on YouTube before Google got it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before it belonged to Google. But and even before that, I was in out-of-body forums and stuff, the astral travel forums. And so I met a lot of people over the years that would talk to me and this stuff. And you'd be surprised the number of people that can shift consciousness into another world. I mean, they can be on the train like Walter Mitty. They can be on the bus, just driving, and they can shift consciousness and live in this other world, or they do it at night, or they do it when they're doing meditation, daydreaming. But there's other worlds that aren't just a little fantasy daydream for a little while. No, they go back there every day. They have a life there. They have a house there. They have friends there. Mm-hmm. They have adventure there. Yeah. And you start realizing how many people get it and that they understand the multidimensionality of reality. And this is just one reality system that we play in with our limited consciousness. That we can, if we can break free of this, we can go into our other universes, parallel worlds, alternate realities. And when you can start doing that, you can also start time traveling. Because going out of body and then going back into another world, you can go into the history or a past experience of this time track. But you're there in the new now, and you're interacting with people, and you can cause them to change what they were doing and stuff. It's pretty deep.
It's extremely deep, because like what you're saying now is that the time aspect with this out of body, they were also discussing in remote viewing, because it was a complexity for them. So imagine, if you will, they're trying to get intel on an area, and they have the remote viewer observe the geographical location to get intel. They started to learn they had to figure out ways to filter the observation. For example, there was a facility that at the time that they were having the remote viewer observe it, it was a pool facility. So he had, everything depicted there, the pool as is. But then he was also talking about water towers and this and that, and a water treatment plant and so on and so forth. So then they were, this guy's wrong, right? Well, it turns out he was dead right for the geographical location, but he was depicting everything on the property through all of the years. So the water towers were there like 70 years before, and he was still seeing them. Yeah. And that's amazing to me. We're savage toolkits that we don't know how to use yet. Yeah. And this, the idea of looking forwards and backwards in time at stuff, I find intriguing. I don't know if I had mentioned to Akvile before, but I'll reiterate today. When I was a kid in my school, I was subjected to a remote viewing training thing. And I believe part of what they did to us was to have us look at our own futures. And I don't think that's good for kids. So it's like, it's just, think about that. What would that do to the psyche of a child? The way my brain works on it is that I imagine, that the standard, you know, we fear the things we don't know or don't understand is logical. So as a kid, to be presented this whole stuff that you don't understand, it could definitely be fear building, you know, in a way. If you are 7 years old and you observe that at 26, you went on a trip in the jungle and an alligator bit your leg, right? If they remote viewed you into that, but now you go back to 7 years old, but now you're deathly afraid of alligators.
Yeah.
So something like that could occur, and it doesn't mean that does it mean that you're wrong for being afraid of alligators? You know, because they'll say, well, you created your own fear. Well, yeah, I did, but technically, you know, it's also accurate.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things on that. One, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you buy into that, you will make sure you make the right decisions, even if it's subconsciously, to live that future track where you end up in the jungle with an alligator biting you. But it doesn't have to be that. If you're not buying into it, you don't believe in destiny, or that's the future, it's been predicted and this guy's never wrong. It doesn't matter.
I agree. Yeah, timelines get more complex.
You can just you miss it by a New York minute.
Yep.
But on the other thing, if you're afraid now of alligators, let's say when you're 7 years old, you are told a story. It's about when you were 21 years old, you get bit by an alligator. But what really happened at 7 years old, you were told a story about alligators, and it scared you, and now you're afraid of alligators because of the story, not because of really the future event.
Fair enough.
So, but now you can go through the rest of your life, and whether or not you hit that alligator thing when you're 21 doesn't matter. You have this fear of alligators, but it's not caused by the future experience with alligators. It's caused by the story you were told when you heard it at 7. That's how that little piece of it would work, in my understanding of things.
I could totally follow that. I look at it from my perspective simply is that now that I'm in the know of the activity, it can change. Like, you know, I see it, I guess the way Akvile was that, you know, you're creating the issue, and I can just now ignore it too, you know. And
hey, with this time stuff, we can go so many different directions all at once. There's the secret space program. We have quite a few clients that have had that, and that's a time travel mind fuck.
And that's part of my concern for my background with all of the other things being what they are. I can't ignore the fact that I was ripe for the plucking. And so I have, you know, there's all the standard markers for it, like, you know, military background, families, specifically the Navy. I was in the Navy myself. I was in submarines for a bit myself. It was a weird time period. It didn't go well. I'm not in submarines anymore. So it was one of the weirdest times of my life when I was in the submarine service. And I haven't spoken much about it because I know people are going to jump my freaking crap for it really hard, because they're going to want, you know, there's going to be all the stolen valor and how dare you. And I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to say anything became good of it. It was a horrible, horrible time in my life where, you know, the U.S. federal government was trying to get me to do things I didn't want to do. That's what it boiled down to. How many people, you know, can get out of the military? I had a 6-year contract. I got out.
Yeah, good for you.
You know, not a lot of people can pull that off. I was like, listen, this is not what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And, you know, it adds to the craziness of stuff. I think that Navy program, the job that they were picking me for, I don't think that they were waiting me to volunteer at 18 years old. I think I was pretty much conditioned to show up for that was inevitable. As a matter of fact, I'm having a recollection. When I was getting out, I very much recall there was an office full of officers, and they were discussing me, and I was outside in the hallway at a very solid parade rest as ordered. And they were screaming at one man who I had no idea who he was. but he was apparently representing my best interests. There's a man I never met, but he was inside, and all I kept hearing him telling them was that I do get to leave. This is weird too, because imagine this is the Navy. He was telling them that I do get to leave because I chose to and I had free will. And they were screaming at him about the massive fortunes that they had invested in me.
Wow.
That's my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to leave the Navy. I did. And the Navy didn't like it because they were talking about how much, not like they weren't even like, this wasn't like your standard, like, you know, where this was, no, there was something else going on. They weren't like, it wasn't like, you know, everybody in the classroom is getting invested in. I get that. But not everybody else was having this commotion. And I certainly wasn't getting thrown in the brig technically. So I am out. I'm not arrested. I'm a free citizen, or whatever the heck you want to call it, a sovereign being again, out from under the Navy's boot.
Wow.
Mm. Yeah, that was a fun day.
Yeah.
Oh, and shortly after that event, I was snatched out of the New London train station. I think I had mentioned this one to Akvile. I got snatched at the New London train station and lost 20 minutes in the back of a cab with a guy who claimed to be someone that he wasn't. And I lost 20 minutes right there for a fact. So that actually, when you want to talk about SSP stuff, that could be a moment right there. So yeah, when I said I wanted out, I was also told by other people that you don't ever actually get out. And if you want to get out, you just get moved into a worse program. I was told that by quite a few people. And I oftentimes wonder if that taxi cab was my lesser program. That I should have just stayed where I was and not, you know, said, I'm not going to do what you told me I had to do. Because then I think they might have made me do something else.
A lot of times, like when we're doing sessions and like subjects like these come up, like, you know, people are fully conscious of what's going on, but they don't really see any marks. Let's say their body doesn't change, their life seems somewhat okay, but the only thing that changes is that like immense tiredness, exhaustion, and they like feel like, you know, like they have more lives. And literally, physical body might be asleep, but you might have astral bodies, or let's say your consciousness is moved into synthetic organic bodies elsewhere, and now you're a slave, like having no free will out there, but made to work. And it's kind of like a voodoo doll effect where your physical body picks up the effects.
Mm-hmm. I just had a recollection actually in that recollection of another potential bad scene from my past that I would like intel on if you guys are interested, which it goes right to this story that I just put out there. So at this same time in the Navy, when I, you know, was getting out, and I was being given options, and it was, I believe I was turning everything down, except for one. I have a recollection of a guy that I had engaged with a Raytheon employee who was talking to me about the potential of helping me get out.
Yeah.
He had a lab and a chair. And he asked me to sit in that chair one day. And I don't remember much about that. And I'd be interested if you guys could see anything there.
Well, I know those, depending on the chair, Raytheon is like totally hooked into that secret space, you know, all that's high-tech stuff.
They do like high tech.
But yeah, and if you're sitting in one of those chairs, man, that's a psychological, or it connects with the mind and the thought and all that. I don't know what kind of chair.
I can picture it. So my recollection now that the room was very dark, and it was almost like the curtain that would be around a clawfoot tub when there's a wraparound shower curtain up top.
Uh-huh.
So it was like a curtain like that. So it had a rail up top, like almost like a ceiling mounted curtain, and it was pulled around so that you could walk up to, and it was like there was a light, like a large light that shone down. And that was like kind of almost the only light on, like as if you then closed the curtain, the room would then be dark and the light would be inside the curtain. And that's about the extent of what I could tell you my recollection was. I went down to see the dude, curtain, light, sit in the chair.
Wow. Well,
I'm
you
out.
know, yeah. Whoa. This interview isn't quite the right setting
10
for
4.
a session, but if you would like a session, we can, you know, we can arrange, that can be arranged later.
I'd be interested in that stuff because I'm open to your guys' toolkits. I don't want to ask more than what you can do, but I'm gonna ask, and if you guys will help me, that'd be great.
Yeah, we've had you know, like I said, several different secret space program clients, and so we have a good feel for it. You know, there's always new surprises, but yeah, we definitely.
That just popped in my head. I was thinking about the cab, and then all of a sudden, just that other room, and I'm like, ah, damn it, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and Akvile is really good at tuning into that stuff.
Yeah, like just to add in, you're talking and I'm seeing flashes. Like I don't even have to work at it; it just comes at me. So like I'll just drop it out there. Don't know how true it is, but it just popped into my head. So I'll just say it. But basically, like the moment you sit in your chair, it's kind of like, you know how in the dark, let's say two worlds have two different things happening at the same time in the same spot, so to speak. And it's basically like the same thing with you. Like when you're here sitting in this chair, there is, let's say, I don't know, like if it's a base or some room, but I'm seeing you like let's say here on Earth, and off Earth, there's another place with another body. It's either a body double, another aspect of you, or something else. But it's kind of like the moment you sit in is the moment you align yourself with that other timeline or something. And now when you're both connected, it's kind of like they can either implant something or, you know, like finally they can tune something else. They just popped into my head. So like I'm saying like this.
I get that feeling, right? So it's like as if there's I almost think of it like a man in the mirror type thing. Like there's another aspect of me, like you're saying, that they, for whatever reason, want me to connect to. Seems appropriate. I don't know the answer as to why either, but it makes sense to me. And I like the idea of Itzhak Bentov and his idea of expanding consciousness, and that there are, in a way, I almost think of it, and I'm not trying to think of myself specially this way. I think we're all in a way like this, that we have expanded consciousness that we can get to. So like when we sleep and it's, you know, our body goes down here, that potentially our intellect is going to somewhere else to now support that thing is in activity or in motion at the time. I guess similar to what is this blockchain stuff now, that somehow consciousness, I think, is similar to that, and that we protect ourselves by bouncing around or something. And that through these interconnections, that something's going on by connecting myself to my other self. Someone's taking advantage of it. I'm not reaping the benefits, but someone is.
Yeah. So there's all that what you're talking about, and then there's I don't know if you can see this. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say this is you, and when you're 7 years old, you can mix. This can happen or this can happen. If this happens, now you've got this choice, and it all ends here. But you got these two other choices. So let's just say you took this choice instead of this one, and you went this way instead of this way. Well, this goes back to here, but this one will go this way and this way, choice, and choice. This one would go just choice. So now if you're right here and you recall your past goes like this. That's your past. But you're in this nexus point, like sitting in a chair, and your past, from that, there could be an alternate past. Another you took this path, this path, this path, this path, and bang, you're all back here. And when you get here, you have like 3 different possible past tracks. Not to mention, here you get to make this choice or this choice and go off into 2 other timelines. But when you get done at the end of the day or the end of the year of the life, you're down here and you only got there's one linear track that you actually took. You see that?
Yeah.
But when you time travel, you can time travel back. If you're here, you can time travel back to here and change, well, say here, and change the future instead of changing. You made that decision, you could change and make the decision to go this way, but you still end up here. And then you got, but you see how complex it can get?
Yes.
It's as real as can be when you live it.
Yeah, and that exactly. So now you're expressing like a lifetime there, and I was looking at those nodes, and I was thinking to myself, now imagine that each node is a lifetime in and of itself, and we bounce around.
Yeah.
You know? And I like the idea of things like that too, because in a way it shows that we're all connected again, and now each of those nodes is a lifetime that I can experience. Does it mean that they're all me's? Well, it could be. It could also be that I could be you sometime. At some point in life, I'm going to be Rich West as well, and I'll get a Rich West experience.
Yeah.
So make sure it's a good one, Rich.
Yeah.
It's all up. Everybody's going to get to do that at some point.
Yeah.
We all get to be each other. So be nicer to each other when you're around yourselves.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Say we can use the same diagram, but let's do this with beingness. This is a being like a gazillion years ago. There's this consciousness. It's not really a person, but it chooses two different points of view to live at the same time. You call it bilocation, or you can just say consciousness choosing to be this being while choosing to be this being. Now, while being this being, it chooses from this point of view to not, when it goes here, do not know, I'm here, do not know that this is me. So now it was set up by the original you, the God consciousness you, but it here you go, well, I don't want to know that I'm somebody else. I just want to know that I'm me, but I have all my powers and abilities, but I don't know I did this. So I'm over here. And now I decide here that, hey, I want to create three different points of view. In other words, create three beings. God creates beings. Ooh, so he creates this being, and this being. Okay. For having forgotten that he created this one. But from this one, he could say, I remember creating this. Not from this point of view, but from this point of view, I get that this is me, and that's me. So I'm one up on myself, that we do it for experience. Oh, this will be fun. Okay, now while this is doing this over here, this one knows all about it. And this one over here goes, well, you know what? I'm going to create another beingness too. And from this, I'm going to create two more. And so this one is going here, and this one decides to merge again with another consciousness, knowing full well what it's doing. This consciousness created this consciousness, and from this part doesn't know that this is another being. Doesn't know that it's itself, and thinks it's merged with my twin flame or something. We don't know, but there he is. He's like two having become one, and he feels more like himself. Oh my goodness. And now you could do that, and then all these three different beings come back and become one once again. This is that idea that some people get, they want to be at one with God. They don't, not necessarily going back up to do it. They find other aspects, three different people, you could say, all choosing to be one. And so now they're being one. And this is that Rich West and you and Akvile, and this times a billion. Times a billion. Or trillion.
I'm wondering if there's a potential for us to have, like, through the development progression. I guess always in my head, I've always thought like, I'm in here, just me. It's just me in here. But could the me be an accumulation of manys, just like you just said? Is it possible that maybe I'm carrying a family's worth of consciousnesses in me, because that happens too? I don't know.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. That's
You're
very
right.
interesting. There are times where I would say experientially, I feel that way. In moments of danger, something happens to me and my mind expands to, the best I could put it is like multiplicity. Like, it's just, I can see the problem from every perspective, which I don't know how to explain, except it feels like there's a million of me in the room somehow when it needs to be. I don't know how to explain it,
Yeah.
you know, but it makes me think of this expanded or more complex consciousness,
Yeah.
you know. I don't know. Yeah, the consciousness is wild. Go ahead, Akvile.
It's kind of pretty fun because like Rich can put everything in words and explain it in human language. I'm more of a seer, so like let's say while I might not like explain it like as good as he does, I sort of see it and experience it like firsthand. Me, let's say I'm gonna do the session with a person and they want me to look into their past life or like who they are, why do they have this problem, and I go back. And within their consciousness or who they are as a being, I find the collective being says, let's say, their family, their relatives, every single person they've met in this life. And then if I go to the past life, every single person they know in that life. And then I can tune into any of those people that I see that they're connected to and go into their past life. And it just sort of keeps branching out, branching out, branching out. But as I keep going and trying to find the origins, eventually it's one point where consciousness and all those people were the same at some point in time. So it's like pretty much like I sort of like see it out from my first experience, like following like a job is tracing what's going on and why, and I end up at the same time trying to like explain it to you, but he puts it in words way better. So yeah.
No, that works. Hey, there's nothing wrong with having a good teammate. I always prefer working with someone. It makes the day go by better. Jeez. Now I'm just intrigued on these thought processes and where our brains can go.
Well, some of the work that we do with clients, sometimes they've got other aspects of consciousness that really they got grabbed and captured and programmed and then shoved together with some other beings. And now they get confused. They think they're one person. They just don't know that there's more than one in there. And then you get a cluster like that. It's called an entity cluster. And then that whole thing as a thing can be clustered with another individual who comes to us for a session. And so Akvile, well, I can do it too, but there's different ways to do it. But you identify the entity or the entity cluster, and then there's techniques you can use to help free those, wake them up. You know, they've been programmed, and some of them are there because they want to be, some of them because they're in a trance state or hypnosis stuff. But anyway, you help wake them up, and they get sorted out, and then they'll start leaving, and they leave your space. And sometimes the client will be holding on to them without realizing it. And when they do, they go, oh, and so they let it go. And sometimes the entities are hanging on to the client. There's all kinds of ways it goes, but we do that work a lot, helping get these entities out of your space. But then after all that's done, there's soul fragments or splinters where you can then recover other aspects of your consciousness that is part of you, that suits you well, that wants to be with you, and like that. So it goes both ways.
Yep. That I've actually heard of. The soul fragmentation I've heard of. At least some folks had told me that I do have issues with soul fragmentation and need to rectify it, and I have had other people that told me I don't. So, but again, I mean, you can go to a doctor and one will say one thing and one will say another. Just is what it is. But you said, was it entity cluster was the term you had used? So that's a new word for me, and that's great, because I feel like a lot of this stuff we just don't have terminology for us to share our experiences. Like I think of it like we have 80% of our life experiences are pretty much mundane and the same, but 20% of our individual experiences are our own, personal, and very different. So we keep them to ourselves, and I just like everybody to share that 20%. And I think this is the great forum for it, Rich.
Yeah.
So the entity clusters, I think, is good term, because I feel like that's kind of like what I was like saying in a way. Does it make sense that like almost like, so I would have, I guess, entity clusters that are there, right? But if it turns out I'm in great danger, well, they're in great danger too.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they just wake up, that they're all like, oh, Jesus, what is this knucklehead up to? He's about to get us all killed. So we all need to pay attention and get this figured out right now. Okay. It seems like that's what's going on.
A lot of times, like working with people who have issues and let's say noticing their own life experience and all this stuff, there's a few subjects I want to go to, but like a lot of times people are being abused by entities and other forces to the point where, let's say, they get depression, they get the Murphy's Law, like, and like everything that can go wrong will like just the worst day ever. And like day after day, week after week, they go into this depression and they're almost up to suicide. They're like about to end off their life, and everything disappears. All of a sudden, all the ends they had, every single problem they have, just not there anymore. And all of a sudden, depression, everything else gone. And they feel happy and like, okay, I don't have to kill myself, and they keep off living. For all the moment, like when he was about to end your life, or like the guy's about to finish himself off, all the ends like stop, turn it all off, and like all of a sudden, every single thought they are trying to amplify on you, or like emotions that they're like creating and all this stuff, all of a sudden like everything's turned off, and you calm down, and they're like. And they're gonna wait a while, and then you're gonna start off like abusing you again. So like it's pretty much continuous.
Oh, geez. So this, I mean, I guess this is an explanation because I mean, oftentimes people don't seem to comprehend what's going on through the mind of someone that wants to kill themselves. I certainly don't get that. I mean, there's no winning there. I mean, that's the ultimate loss. That's a, but at least I can imagine what's going on in their head. You know, I can't justify it, but I can understand. You know, that at least is a good first step. I feel for people in those circumstances, but I could say that until you just said what you said, I don't think I really had an understanding of why someone might be thinking that way. I thought it was like just woe is me, but to think of it as like a team of negative people working against someone does seem like that would wear someone down. I could see that.
Well, that's like very interesting thing. Like, there's a lot of like clients I work with. Like, I had a few who were in the nut house and called schizophrenic. And you work with the person, and they like have their own issues, and they heard the label that was given to them, and they believe it, and they talk to you, and you're like listening, and you're like, okay, well, tell me how many different beings are there talking to you? And you said like, okay, like 15. And like, okay, so give them names. Now, like all those beings have names and their personalities and their. Let's say one is going to be more aggressive, one is depressive, one is always yelling, the other one is always like a sad person, and like constantly like tons of different voices. So you end up telling a person to be the life coach, the psychologist, and give the session to beings tormenting them, and eventually they leave their space and they're no more schizophrenic because it gets pretty quiet out there just because they had a conversation and gave something to the being that was really hard on them. And so all of a sudden the problem leaves and they're no more having labels, so to speak.
That's interesting. So now I would imagine that the folks that you're mentioning, when they're hearing a voice, are they describing it as a voice that's distinctly different than their own?
There are different scenarios. Like with some of the people I've talked, some of them say like the voice is same as theirs. It is exactly the same. Others can hear voices and they're very different. Like there's male, there's females, there's demonic voices, there's some kids laughing, and they can say like very different. So like there's both kinds together.
Dang it. Because I hear my voice in a million ways now. I was hoping you were going to say they just hear it in other people's voices. And I was going to say, whew, I'm sane, but I'm not.
And there's two kinds of voices a person can hear on their own. Mm-hmm. Some people are auditory. In other words, they can hear sounds in their head. They can play back music. They can play back a conversation they had with somebody. Very clear. And other people, that doesn't happen. There is no auditory. So the voice that's talking to them is like, it's like telepathy. There's no sound, no tonal quality to it, but it's also, each word is spoken. Mm-hmm. So that's, some people talk to themselves in that way. And so it's always going to be the same voice in that regard. But other people will hear their own, they will actually hear the voice, hear the sound of their voice. So that's two ways that goes too. Not to mention all the other voices. And those other voices can be individual sounding voices, a male voice, a female voice, a deep voice, all tenor voice. But those voices could also all be telepathic in that there's no they all sound the same. They're just different emotional intensity or different, different. They're talking about different things with different emotions and attitudes when they're talking. So it makes it a little more difficult to decipher or know whether or not you've got entities messing with you or you're just thinking crazy shit,
I feel like in my head, when I have to make a decision about stuff, I feel like, and it's instantaneous. I don't know that other people don't experience the exact same thing. These are my words for what I'm doing. When I have to like think of something or make a decision, I feel like there's like a trillion of me chiming in at once, and I'm going to pick who's right. And I can tell the difference between all of them.
Uh-huh.
And I know which ones are worthless for this topic and which ones are beneficial, and you be quiet and stuff like that type things. But effectively, like, yeah, it's just, I couldn't say it's not all me. I don't know. I could be wrong too, but it's my perspective is there's just tons of me in there. And for the most part, they're helpful. They have their bad days and bad aspects and stuff like that. And I'm sure there are times that things come out of my mouth where I say I shouldn't have let him say that.
Mm-hmm.
But we all do that part. But the thinking part, and to me, I don't know. I feel like I think a lot of thoughts at once compared to some folks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just is what it is.
Another twist on this. I've been doing this stuff for like 30 years. So, all different techniques for talking to the entities, getting them to wake up, getting them to leave the space. And I'm always learning something new. But a lot of them, you know what their name is? They have a name. Me. What's good for me? And it's like everybody's, somebody talking about me? What are we doing? Well, I just wondering, what I want for dinner. And that's their other nickname.
Mm-hmm.
You say, I'm pissed. And he's like, all these go, yeah. And all these go, no, don't get past. No. That's not a good idea. So it's already, the show is already starting,
That's actually, those are great words that you chose too. And the question, because that is probably a really easy way to trigger the activity. The split second you say like, oh, well, what am I going to have for dinner? Boom, the eyes all start chiming in.
Yeah.
We could have this, or we could have like, and then the argument, well, we just had. Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah. And it's really, it sounds like it's like way out there, but once you understand what's going on, people do not need a facilitator to start getting these entities out of their space, spotting them and finding them and moving them out.
Mm-hmm.
We're so powerful. I'm just for a word, the commander of all of this, you are in command.
Mm-hmm.
There's one commander, there might be a few wanting to argue with you about it,
mm-hmm.
but you're like alpha. And it's the consciousness, the greatest consciousness here is the commander, but it usually turns it over to the lower officers, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's run on automatic. The grunts do all the work, but it's not that difficult to start moving these entities out of your space once you understand how it all works. So
I think that's the benefit of knowledge, is that once we have an understanding, I agree with you. I think we're very powerful, but we're nescient. We're worse than ignorant. Ignorant would be if we had the knowledge presented to us and we made a wrong decision. We're nescient. We don't even know what we are. We haven't been presented the truth to even be ignorant.
Yeah.
So I like what you guys are doing a lot. This is amazing to me. I love conversations about our minds and how they're rather dysfunctional from what we think, our normal day-to-day operations. I mean, it's kind of sad that we do what we do all day long, which is pretty monotonous and mundane and not really fun for the muscle that we're attempting to exercise. If we didn't have to, as a society, sit around and be so obligated to paying mortgages and dealing with corrupt politicians, I like the idea of, what if it was, more Shangri-La like, and we had time to conceive and create more ideas. I mean, if the world was simply more artsy fartsy instead of industrial, I think it would be a better thing.
Absolutely.
You know, the idea of recreation, I mean, recreating should be the priority in life. Like, what are we recreating on today? You know, and we should be in a society, I think, where it shouldn't take the greater portion of the day for you to meet your needs. And then, you know, at that point, you should get that taken care of. And then the rest of the day, we should be involved in elevating our minds, expanding our consciousnesses, and connecting with each other on a human level. I mean, like herds of animals running in the fields, like that's natural. Like we should be collecting and doing stuff together way more than we are now. I mean, we're not allowed to go outside much anymore. It's getting worse, but that's inherently wrong. We're way at the wrong end of the pendulum swing for this.
Right. You know, you mentioned conversations about the mind. And when you think of entities, you can think of when we think, even if we're just a little subtle talking to yourself, you're creating the mind. It has to happen within that mental arena or that realm. So you can think of it as air, an atmosphere. So you have an atmosphere around you when you're involved with engaged in thought. Now, if you can quiet the mind and just like turn it all off, it's like empty, no atmosphere, just empty. You can still know, and you can still make decisions, and you can still do things, and you can go from knowing what to say and then out your mouth, and you're saying it, and you're working and operating on a different level. You're looking at things, you're perceiving things, you're knowing things, you're making decisions about things, but you're not thinking about it. But that's not most people. Most people are thinking about it. I better speed up if I want to make that light. And you say that in your head, you know, you're creating the atmosphere. And it's like if giant flocks of birds and flying little insects were entities, as long as you're creating that atmosphere by thinking anything at all, I think I'll have pizza. No, I think I'll have burgers tonight. Think anything at all, you're creating the atmosphere for these little things to fly around in your space. When you can turn it all off, it's like they cannot be in your space because you don't have that atmosphere for them.
You hit a key word for me, knowing. I love the conversation of thinking and knowing and the distinction between them.
Yeah.
And science has shown us, the remote viewing program, the Stargate program, human beings can know things without any reason to know it. They've proven that people can pull this information out of whatever you want to call it. The person can be right, and the person can have no reason to be right, but lo and behold, they are. And they've done this time and time again. This is something, so I noticed this myself in my own life growing up through my experience. I knew at times something, and I knew I was right, and I knew I had no reason to know it, but regardless, I was. And I started to pay attention to when this would occur, just so I could make a note. Happened again. It happened again. And I started noticing this so much that I started trying to convince other people to start paying attention to it in their world, that we all do this also. There are times where you simply know something. Someone throws a question out there. Hey, did you? And you know the answer. You have no idea where you pulled it out of thin air. One of my me's knew that. So that's what wound up happening. People go, how did you know that? I don't know. The dude just told me. What do you want me to tell you? I knew it. And I was right. But if they wanted to argue with me about how I knew it and whether or not I should know it, they would win that argument from their perspective. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, I would just sit there going, yeah, but it still turns out I was right.
Totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So now that's a knowing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's folks like Edgar Casey that talk about things like this. So this does go right in the direction of where you guys are discussing things, right? Like this doesn't, I'm not saying anything contrary to your experience, right? Like you can know stuff. Have you guys ever seen this?
Oh yeah, I noticed it many years ago, 20, 30 years ago, no, 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff would just start.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I didn't notice that I knew it. You know, it would just come out of my mouth and people would have the, Rich, you just, oh, I just had a realization, Rich, because of something I just said.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning of it. People were having these realizations. Well, I'm just talking. But then it started happening where I would have longer conversations about a subject. And then it started happening when I started making videos. You just tap into that knowing place. It's the consciousness that you are, and you tap into whatever it is. And it's just right. It's just there. You just know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you had experienced stuff like that?
Yeah, like same with making videos, just talking and stuff. But like, for me, like the biggest thing that stands out, and it's a bit like maybe a little bit off topic, like getting out of body is the key thing. Because let's say while you're here, most people have tons of thoughts and their own case of what has happened, their past experience, and like in this current life now and stuff, like big traumas. But the moment you get out, it's very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden, all the problems you've had, like your house that you need to clean and all the stuff that was happening on Earth, it's gone. It's completely empty here. Like you perceive stuff, you know stuff, you do things, but there's not a single thought like, oh, I'm gonna fly. No, you just do things. And so for me, like that was the key thing where, let's say, getting out of body or doing sessions and seeing things, and I end up talking about things that I've never seen before. And then Rich says, like, he read about it in the book. And for me, like, look what I found while doing my work. And then he confirms that someone else wrote about it. Like, damn, like, so for me, like, that's pretty cool. It's sort of like either tapping within or getting out, seeing stuff, and then getting confirmations that someone else experienced it while I never ever heard about it before. So.
I love when stuff like that happens. And I know it's so frustrating because people won't believe it. But it happens all the time. Like, you just start thinking about something, reading about something, you get a realization about something. And then you find 6 other authors that have been realizing it through the years, but you still did it originally yourself, so, pat on the back for being a good thinker. But it's amazing that that stuff does happen all the time. And we should give each other credit for it. This is why we need to exercise our brains more, to give ourselves more times to get into these practices, because we can accomplish a lot. You guys forget about it. And I have to keep bringing up Joe Dispenza too, because that guy needs more people out there paying attention to what he is doing as well. I think he's a pioneer in consciousness right now as well, and people should talk about him too. I'm amazed at what he's accomplished in a short period of time too. I remember when he first came out with that "What the Bleep Do We Know" stuff, which was amazing to watch. Did you guys ever see that? There was a DVD that came out years ago, and it was simply called "What the Bleep Do We Know."
Oh yeah. I watched them.
There you go. So he was in that one way back when,
Uh-huh.
but he was in a different place in his world at the time. So I remember him from way back then, and now when I see him now, I'm like, man, this guy gained a lot of ground real fast. That's so good.
Another one, a great one, is Jim Quick. Well, there's a lot of great ones, but Jim Quick is amazing too.
As far as the out of body experiences, right? It would be, I would say, very similar to remote viewing, when they make it analogous to like playing a guitar, right? That anybody theoretically can play a guitar, anyone can theoretically remote view, and anybody theoretically should be able to get out of body, especially with the right training. Does that sound fair? Right? Like it could certainly be hard for someone to learn how to play the guitar, but if they really want to do it and they get a good trainer, there's nothing stopping them. So OBE would be the same thing.
I like 100% believe that every single thing I know and can do, absolutely everyone can do it if they work at it.
Mm-hmm. 10-4. I'm amazed at the clarity that you have, because I don't oftentimes get the recollection. I remember more so as a child that I could wake up in the morning, so to say, and go over every detail of what happened. But it was also, I'm also aware that they were completely lucid waking. Like I'm very familiar with that. I remember, popping into dreams and stuff like that, and that feeling where you're like, ooh, I can do anything I want right now. That's, to me, that's what lucid dreaming was when you were aware and you knew and you had that full sense of control. Like, do I want to fly? Do I want to jump 50 feet every time I want to jump? Like, whatever you want to do. I can climb up that building. I can run 1,000,000 miles an hour. That was my idea of what lucid dreaming was. And I guess what you're saying, OBE?
Yeah. I would say
Wow,
so.
yeah. And you can remember like almost every darn detail when you come back. I'm so jealous.
For me, like, it's very weird because I'm more of a person who's not as a thinker. Like, I don't really have thoughts going in my head, but
Mhm.
I'm very perceptive. Like, every single sound, I'm gonna hear my neighbors in the 2 floors down sneezing. Like, I'm crazy like that. But in a way where, with what happens throughout the night, for example, like, let's say I get out of body and stuff, like, call it the Akashic records or whatever. For me, it's like having this massive movie reel, if I'm saying it right, and each frame is a past life. So let's say I just open it up, there's tons of frames, and I look like we just sort of scroll and scroll, like I click one, and boom, I'm in. And now I can choose another real timing, like the birth, or like when did I came over, how long time, like how much did I spend, and every single detail that has happened. And let's say there's that, but like we can call it a library as well of this life and every other life. Like imagine this being in this massive library, and you open up and you take out one book, and it's a book about your current day, or a week before, or a month ago, or when you were 4 years old, and that's just this life. But then there's every single life you have, and then you can also like open the door to the next door that leads to other people, and you go exploring there, stuff kind of like that. So it's
Mhm.
like it's not like I have everything right now, but I can go explore and find it and pull it up and like, oh, now I see it, sort of
Mhm.
like that.
Interesting.
It has crazy visuals, not just visual, but tactile, touch,
Mhm.
smell, hearing.
Mhm.
When she shifts consciousness, we could do a demo right now, and I could,
Sure.
I can show you.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
the demo's great. There's always people watching and want to learn.
so there's going to kind of a demonstration of how much detail and how much clarity and how much she is there. Do you have a target? I was thinking like maybe a spacecraft with some friendlies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's gonna shift and she's gonna look into a spacecraft with some friendlies on board. Now, there's different ways we go about it when we tune into it. Do you have something in mind? You want me to tune you in?
The first thing that popped up is my reptilian buddy. Haven't seen him for a while.
Okay, on a spacecraft or?
Yeah, I mean, I've never visited his stuff, so it's gonna be like going to visit him with my friends.
Yeah. Okay. So she's got a
Not
target.
first.
And we'll go there. And I'm going to ask her some specific questions so that you and the audience gets an idea of just how much detail and what she's really seeing. I'm not a visual person myself, so I don't see visuals. So it just blows me away when I find out how much clarity and how visual it really is. So,
Okay. So I just
yeah, just go ahead. She's tuned into who you tuning into?
the reptilian buddy. A long story short, we were like doing a session, and like we found this place in the Andromeda galaxy. It's kind of like facility with tons of crystals, and each crystal is kind of like a programming thing. And within that space, like we found like there was this reptilian guarding the place and like trying to interfere, but eventually I was sort of like freed him from those that's controlling him, and now he's like my little buddy. Like sometimes appears and like tries to help out and all stuff. So yeah.
Okay, so she's going to tune in now, and she's going to look a little bit, and then she's going to pop out of it. Now she'll share stuff. I can ask her stuff. You can ask her stuff.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so again, like I was just doing like quick glances. It's kind of like spaceship within a spaceship within a spaceship,
Okay.
so to speak. So first of all, like there's this some like structure like a tube. It's sort of empty from both sides, but it's kind of like like this.
Yeah,
So
like
to speak. Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It goes
So
around.
yeah, so like a tube, but it's like very long, and so like
Mhm.
you can go from both sides, and the whole thing. Inside, there's like a city, like buildings from upside down, like and like that, like, so, like from every direction, they're like buildings, and like it's kind of like let's say intergalactic station where tons of people, like say whether humans, reptilians, or someone else can come and live there, be there, trade, just have their own place, have offices and all this stuff. Like so, like it's just like a massive city, kind of like. And then there are like bigger spaceships that bring in the resources, what's like technologies that are needed, like I don't know, like vehicles and stuff like that. And then within that massive spaceship, I'm in a little spaceship where there's a reptilian body.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
just sort of,
Like massive, like planet-sized massive, or the big one?
quite big. Yeah, it's I wouldn't say like massive like a planet, but it's definitely like just take one of the bigger cities. I don't like LA. I've never been in New York, so
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like that. But like just like let's say take the whole city and bend it so that it would be like from like 360,
Yeah, like a
but inside.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Like inside of a torus field or a tire. Okay, so inside there, you're in there, and inside there, is it city like built around the wall, the walls of it like this, or is it all down the?
Yeah, like the city is in the middle, and then there's this massive wall, and then there's the surface where they collect it. Like, let's say spaceships can come over and park there, and then they go within to the inner.
Okay,
kind of like,
all right. So, but anyway, you're in a little smaller ship
within a
and
ship.
within that big giant thing.
Yeah.
You see your reptilian buddy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, do you have any questions so that I could tune in and look at it, or
What does he do there? Your reptilian buddy. What's he in the activity of?
Yeah. What's he doing right now?
Okay. Okay, yeah, so long story short, the last time I saw him, like we were doing a session and he helped me out, gave me some details, and after that, like we didn't see each other for quite a long time. So basically, he's working with the Human Alliance. Basically, that reptilian is kind of like this role of a snitch, so to speak. Like, let's say reptilians and like reptilian queens that were abusing him and like trying to mess with mercenary beings, he's telling the information, like he's blackmailing reptilians and just trying to fuck them up back because he was abused, so to speak. And working with humans, they just sort of came back from a mission like from close to Orion, because like let's say one of the planets, like they capture people, and it's more of like abducting humans from Earth and maybe other places, getting them down as a resource, like labor, sex slaves, and like tons of other things, and all these people are being messed with. So that basically this human alliance with the ship and there's reptilian and there's like other beings and the whole thing. So it's not just humans, but there's a lot of others like mix. They wanted the planet to sort of rescue and stop the fighting and sort of like create this peaceful place. But like every single human that was there and were messed with are back in the spaceship, and now they're going for like a rehab in this facility, so to speak. So like they're sort of like saving people and bringing this spaceship.
Okay. Now, to be focused right in, you're standing there in a room or a hallway or outside?
It's like a hallway, like like I'm like there's like a pilot deck, like or pilot room in front, like the doors are closed, but like I walked out of there. So like let's say I just teleported in the pilot room, and I was like I sort of looked behind like what it looked like, and I left the door and I walked the corridor like where I met him like face to face. So to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So are you face to face with him now? Can you be? Okay. Can you touch like his hand or his shoulder? Go ahead, do that.
Yeah, it's he's pretty tall, like way taller than you. I don't know, like 9-10 feet, so to speak. And yeah, like big cold scales and all the stuff. It has clothing now. He's kind of like wearing the like
Yeah,
the lines,
uniform.
like the uniform and all.
So is it vivid? Like
I can smell him. I can smell the stuff from his mouth.
okay. And you can see him and touch him and
Yes.
everything. Can you walk around him right now?
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that just for us and to see what's on the back of his shirt or back of his neck.
Okay, so like I walked around him, and first like he wasn't understanding what I was doing. So like I'm walking around him, and he's spinning like right with me. You know, like he's spinning with me.
What are you doing?
But yeah, but then like it's like stay still. And I walked in this back, and like he has some skills, or like let's say kind of like shark fins, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And they're sticking through his suit, so he kind of like tore his suit apart in the back
Okay.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you speak to him, does he have voice or telepathic?
It's telepathic.
Okay.
Yeah.
What color are his eyes?
Red.
Red. Pupils?
Like yeah, black pupils, if that's the black side, right?
Yeah.
And then the like let's say ours is blue, so his more like reddish, like right, like pinkish, like a bit darker, and then
Yeah, and then the black middle pupil thing.
Yeah.
Are they slits? Or are they
slits.
round?
Slits.
Yeah. Okay. So you can just touch. Could you give him a hug or anything?
Yeah.
You want to? Just,
Sure. It's funny because like each interaction with him is like always goes in my benefit. Like let's say I hugged him, and like last time like I made him a friend because it's funny, like if you've seen the Harry Potter movie, there's this house elf called Dobby, and he gets a sock and now he's free. So basically, like once I freed him from his like masters, like Reptilian Queen and all this stuff, I gave him a little Game Boy to play with, and all of a sudden he does not need to mess with humans because he has a game to play. He's not like engaged, you know, like
okay.
different target. So basically, like after I hugged him, he gave me like this little, I don't know, like a radar, like let's say like a little tablet, but it literally shows all the soul traps in the vicinity that he sort of saw and sort of like there, you know. Like,
Yeah.
so
Okay. Wow.
now I have information about the soul traps, and like I can go there and destroy them, like if you know.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a
Would you have a
curiosity.
Would you have a question for the?
Yes.
Her,
You're in the hallway, right?
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with hallways and installations. Can you see any markers by the doors or any signs or symbols or anything? Because I imagine in a hallway like that, it might say something in whatever language. I imagine something saying like B-1 galley or kitchen next to a door somewhere in a hallway, or janitor's closet or something. Is there anything that you could see in there? And granted, I know it might not be English, but something that you might be able to glean and just say, I saw this. Like you could draw whatever the symbol is for B-1 next to the door. I don't know.
Okay. It's funny because like I was like sort of like looking through the doors and like trying to see if there's any markers. And like Reptilian's like, what are you doing? Like he's kind of like just waiting, like looking around, and like pops at me like, you know, like come on, like just ask. So like I basically did not know, like I did not notice any markers like let's say to the pilot door, and I was looking around, and like I just asked him like, do you have any markers that shows the locations of places and all this stuff? So like he has this kind of like I don't know, like a little rock close to his like I don't know like where like right here.
Yeah,
And
temple.
like yeah, so he takes it off, he puts it on me, and like right in front of me, like just like kind of like a map pops out, like holographic right in front of me. Like it's not like he cannot see it, but it pops out for me, and like I see just the whole layout of the whole spaceship, and I can literally touch places and zoom in, zoom out, see every corridor, see like let's say Reptilian's location, or like my room, and like it's sort of like fits your standards. So like you know, like you don't necessarily need to like write down all the languages, but like you put this on and now it's in your own language so that you would understand, kind of like
Yeah,
that.
kind of like a Google Glass, but
Yeah, absolutely. I can follow that.
yeah, wow.
Oh, that saves the need for the janitor staff to change the names on the doors every time someone gets hired or fired, right?
Pretty much.
Hey, could you do a little fun thing? Just kind of, now that you've got your map thing put there, just kind of walk down the hall opposite the pilot room. And the first door you come to, can you tell us what it is and maybe walk in there and take a look?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay, so like I multitask a little bit, and not just the first room, but quite a few.
Okay.
So like let's say pilot's room, and then like if the pilot room is here, and I keep going back to like bigger like the other part of the ship, the first door to the right is like the doors out. So like you leave the spaceship, and they have like this little room where there's like you step in the middle, and there's the gassing, there's the scanners, lasers, like they check you if you're in the system and if you're one of theirs. So they literally like kind of like scanning through to see if there's, I don't know, like masking or something else, like sort of like
In case you got some
like,
cloaking or something and
yeah,
sneaking in or sneaking out.
So like one of the rooms like basically check if you're like if you have the ID for the ship and if you're the right for the crew or not. The opposite of that is like a smaller room, but it's like kind of like pitch black. Like it's kind of like a hologram where you step in and they can create like the simulation of your wanted room or reality, but at the same time everything's kind of like deprivation tank where they turn off absolutely everything. So like I feel like it's more for, let's say, remote viewers to locate things or not. So there's that. Like I say, like leave the room. There's also like sort of like this I don't know, like how to say, like a floor, but it opens up and you can go on the under, like sort of like on the level, like down,
Lower
like,
down level.
Yeah. So like on lower deck, like it opens up to the med bay where there's like a lot of like, you know, their medical stuff, equipment, and like tables and like weird stuff. Yeah. So.
Okay. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how, if being able to, if this was a 10 here, some days her visuals are higher and lower. So sometimes I check. What do you got going today?
I would say 10. Like literally, like I can hear people talking in their own language. In the other rooms, I hear like instruments like being moved. Like someone is eating in some other corner. You know, so like I hear things, I see things. It's pretty clear. Like touching, like I feel like what's hot. I feel what's cold. Like, you know, like when the gas came up, like got steamy. Like you know, like I feel it now.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I was just thinking temperature-wise, and as a plumber and heating industry person, what you were just saying. So you were saying the steam. So you felt, what was the temperature like in there? And you were saying something about a gas or steam coming at you?
Yeah, like the room where like you leave the, like, let's say the spaceship, like from closer to the pilot's room, like they have this like ID place where like you know, like making sure like with the lasers and stuff. So like even when the laser touches you, it like I can feel some heat, or like even like kind of weird sensation where as if like someone did an X-ray on me, like you sort of can feel that stuff. But at the same time with this, like with the gas or like the steam, like, you know, like it gets, it's hot, it doesn't burn you. So, like it's warm. Let's say like you're in sauna, but it's not too much.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Okay. Wasn't
So-
cold.
Hmm?
It wasn't cold, right? So you knew it was relatively warm.
And the corridor is pretty cool,
Okay.
but like out in certain rooms.
Now, there is what we call remote viewing, and then
Yes.
there's called consciousness shifting out of
Yeah.
body. What would you call this?
Consciousness shifting. I think like just I literally like create an aspect of me teleported there, and now I can live in that place, so
So
to speak.
you move your consciousness and your point of view into that.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Can you look at your own hands in that world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like double of this body.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wonder, like, if you were to walk in front of it, like I was thinking that, like, if you walked in front of a mirror, what would you see?
Let's do it. Want to?
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
Find a mirror or make one, mock one up.
Yeah, I can find one, and I can do a few, like one in the spaceship, just in case if I look the same, I can teleport somewhere else where I have a different body and like have a different looks and then describe it to you.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
Hajabo versions.
Yeah, let's do both. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is what she's doing here in her abilities. This is what we use in those sessions that we do. It's not just a remote view or a deep scan. She shifts to these places.
right. And that's why I like what you guys do, and I want to engage, because I don't even know your words. I don't know your tools, so to say. Like, I'm sure you have a tool bag with tons of things that you can do, and I don't know what that is. I want to know. I want everyone to know, because I think it's real important. You know, this is a great conversation.
Okay, so mirror.
All right.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, like this is very interesting because like I haven't seen this thing before, but it's funny. Like I walk into in front of the mirror and look the same, everything's fine. Like I just literally like, oh, like I have different clothing, and so like I look at this like, okay, I'm sort of like just similar suit to what they have. Like I'm short sleeve, but like looking like the different kind of like the white, black, a bit of yellow, like stripes and all the stuff. And I look at my feet, and I don't really have shoes. And I'm like, okay, what's that? So like I'm gonna like I start lifting my hands and just it keeps on going. I'm like, okay, I need to find a private room so that like no one can interrupt me. I'm gonna take it all off, see what's up. And basically this I have like another layer, and I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of like a suit, kind of like synthetic material that can expand all over your body, but has artificial intelligence. And I don't know how to put it in words, but basically, it's kind of like you step on this mass, like a goo, and then it spreads all over your body up to your neck.
Yeah.
And this AI literally communicates with that little thing. So like it starts talking to me, and now like I can kind of have conversation, and he just starts sort of like shows me this tab right in front of me with my body, like the way, the height, how it all is, like how athletic I am, like things I can do, cannot do, things are allowed, are not allowed. And with the suit on, like you know, like he goes down and shows like what I am, and goes up, and then it's basically everything is amplified by whatever. Like literally, it can sort of like connect the body, relaxing it into a way where you're just sort of like moving your head, and you can like with consciousness control everything, but it sort of like amplifies all your abilities where you can jump high, run fast, and like just do everything way better, but sort of like relax the body and does the work for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of an enhancement suit
Yeah.
for your superpowers or something, but
Yeah.
I'll connect with the AI of it all.
Yeah.
Advanced tech stuff.
So
Okay.
that's what's different. Like the face and all the stuff looks the same, but like what the fuck, you know? So
Wow.
Nice.
something new.
Another, could you find your reptilian buddy? And he probably already knows this, of course, but tell him that, you know, we're being interviewed by Eric,
Oh, gee.
and communicating to the masses, you know, on Earth. Is there anything he would like to share with Eric and Eric's audience?
Sure.
He might say yes. No, I don't know what he's going to do.
Hey, this is groundbreaking stuff here, Rich. Good thought. We're about to get some intel.
Okay. Okay, so I have two beings sharing their information. One is reptilian, the other one is that AI suit, which is funny.
The AI suit has an ego.
Yeah. So basically the reptilian got like really excited. Like I asked him that, like he has a big mixed smile on his face, like leads me to this room, and it's like a massive room, but literally has this kind of like a board, like, you know, like when you're hunting someone and you have tons of information about them, like what they're like.
Oh yeah, the big photos and threads going from here to here and over here in circles, and you look like a crazy person. Yeah.
Sort of like that. So like he led me to this room and basically saying that a lot of people who are, let's say, Satanists and corrupt politicians and like all those who are like bad here, they're trying to track them down and their other aspects throughout the multiverse. And like if there are groups who are fighting here on Earth, their main mission is to hunt those, like, let's say, if I don't like how to explain it. If they have like some like intergalactic trading, for example, like selling people off here, like to the Speaker Speed program and all the stuff, they're gonna intercept and take away their products, so like they, like other sites cannot use it and cannot use humanity and all the stuff. And at the same time, like hunting down the other parts of, like, let's say Bill Gates or someone else and try to affect them. Just like that, they're totally sharing their intel is that like they're fighting the other world, hunting the other aspects of these beings. And then the egos, like, or like ego suit.
Ego suit, yeah, ego suit.
That's perfect.
This AI.
AI suit, same thing.
I'm a real boy.
Yeah.
So this AI is saying that, like, not sort of don't comply with the system and don't give in to the fear mongering, because like what they're showing us and what people are buying is like they're using our consciousness to shift us into their wanted realities.
What the bad guys are showing us here.
What the bad guys are showing, and like trying to, like, let's say, fear and chaos and everything else. They're trying to have this massive amount of humanity focus on the negative, so that everyone would shift into this negative timeline where the bad side is winning. They're saying, like, don't give in, live your own future, be the best version of yourself, like, you know, like, and you can actually like get help and like manifest the future you want, choosing the right time, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So there.
Wow. Well,
That is the best advice I've ever gotten from an outfit ever.
tell AI thank you, and tell your reptilian thank you very much. We really appreciate everything he's doing.
Yes, please. Totally.
Dealing with all this stuff in the multiverse and what he's doing, we really appreciate it.
All right.
And we support that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like I did that, and basically this AI suit is like, take me with you, because basically this belongs to the reptilian. He wants to go here.
This is funny. This is great. This is to me, actually, this is to me my personal experience, and what you guys are sharing. This to me is what makes things seem genuine. This is what I talk about, like with the remote viewing stuff, right? So when these remote viewers came out and would view something, it was outlandish. If they were trying to be a fraud, right, and make something up, you would think they'd make something up believable.
Yeah.
You know, instead of always having to come from behind the eight ball, be like, no, please believe me when I say that I saw this. It takes them years actually to prove that what these guys were saying was dead on. You know, so it's like, here we ask Akvile to go take a look, and I don't think anybody in the world could have placed a wager and said she's going to come back talking about clothes that talk. You know, I mean, that's, you know, it just is what it is. That's like, actually, it's almost beyond imagination to think that someone's going to now imagine this on camera and then try to, you know. So to me, that's just that. It's the details, you know, it's the things that you pay attention to that matter. And that to me is like the fascinating part of the story, technically. You know, it's like, now here we are, we have the ego suit that we're discussing.
Yeah.
You know,
this is how Akvile and I got started. I could take people with her similar skills that she has, and they were just thought they were a great visualizer.
mm-hmm.
They could imagine and see visually clearly. I could guide them out of body. just a technique, okay, just close your eyes and imagine a tree, do this. And then I'd guide them right out of the body. And then I realized some people, they felt like they were on a commander on a spaceship or something, another aspect of themselves, or they are in this body when they go to sleep at night. And I said, well, can you tune in? Can you visualize that right now? Yeah. Okay. And then I just do that thing I do, and I'd move them onto the spaceship. And it never occurred to them that it was more than just a fantasy or a visualization thing that they were doing. But I get them to touch things and feel things. And what I'm really doing is getting the person to draw more consciousness away from the physical world and into their non-physical reality system that they're engaged in. So I'd learned this skill years before I met Akvile. And when I found out she had these skills, one of the first things we did was she actually saw a real spaceship UFO thing one time out in the country at her cottage, her grandpa's cottage. Anyway, I said, hey, let's see if we can contact those people with using her skills. And so that started everything. She shifted consciousness. That was like the first spacecraft we got on. And it was a big thing, and it had a lot of different ETs on it. So we'd walk around, I'd have her walk around and say hi to these weird looking aliens, touch their skin. And, they had, some of them were dignitaries, and they had these, blue and gold lining and fancy hats and all this stuff. And we just walk around, taste the food.
What is is there a standard reaction to your presence, Akvile? Like, is it like, I mean, they don't really seem bothered by you, right? Like, no one's alarmed, or it's.
Well, like, there's a few things. Like, usually if I land, let's say, on a place that's neutral or has good guys, like what we call them, they're like very much like, oh, it's one of those, like for them, like they've seen plenty of us, like we're here from other places, and I'm there, like, like with the intention to explore. So like, let's say if I meet a being that's like literally like a slime, but like has consciousness, and I shove my hand through it and I feel the goo, and like I pull it out, and like, yeah, like, like I shake it off and all this stuff, like it's real, and they're like, like, please don't do that again, and they will have their own voice and all this stuff. You're like,
don't do that.
Have you ever shown up to places that were just outright hostile?
Yes. A lot of times I get out of body. I'm not even trying, and I end up in a place that's like, you're in the middle of the world, like, whoa, like, you have to back off because they're like literally shooting right in front of you, and there's like a massacre going on. And like, yeah, like I would walk up in front of the reptilian queens and like other like reptiles, and they're like ready to kill you, and they look at you like a little, like, you're like, I'm here, and they're like this, and I'm like, hello, mister, it's kind of like that. But like, it's like very,
they're about to eliminate the threat that obviously isn't a threat.
Exactly. Yeah. But eventually, like, I come there with a mindset that as a consciousness, I'm limitless, which means I'm not a physical body anymore. I'm not Akvile. I'm not this, whatever this is. I'm the consciousness, like basically point of view. At the same time, I'm the creator, and I can create you or destroy you. And they like see me, and I'm like, fuck, stop everything. Let's discuss. What do you want? And like all of a sudden, these massive beings start respecting you, like, like they want to solve the issue, they want to discuss, and like, if they're in the middle of the war, they're gonna stop just to have you get out. Well, let's say have you like please just be perceiver, but don't engage and like ruin the party for us, kind of like that. So there's like a lot of variations, and sometimes
it sounds like for the most part you are respected when you go places.
Totally,
right?
Always.
That's good.
Well, she's had a few little of these, but yeah, she does negotiations. Hey, let's discuss this, make a deal. For clients, these things are messing with a client, and so, they have their reasons, and we have our reasons. Let's make a deal, negotiations, stuff like this. Well, you stop doing this, and we can get this for you. And Akvile can, as the consciousness that she is. They recognize that in her. And you've probably heard it before, that these archons and a lot of these reptilians and these different ETs, they cannot create. They're not creator beings like us.
I have heard things like that. Yes.
there's different stories of how and why they've lost that or never had it. But that's the way it is. And they see a creator being show up in their world. It's like, what do you want? You know, they might be indignant or something at first, but
I guess like for me, like, you know, like when I started, like when I was a kid, I was like, well, if you're fucking with me, I'm gonna fuck back with you. Like let's say, like, so like a few years back, I was like back shooting at them, trying to destroy them, and like I had my own mindset back then. Now that like I grew up and I'm like, oh shit, like I was doing this because of my own issues, and like they're doing this like working with entities, and eventually you see them that they are abused by higher ups and made to mess with people, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna look at this from the perspective. And so like when I go out there right now, and you hear like a client has an issue with this being and they're messing with them, you're like, okay, what happened? And all of a sudden you find out that this client in the past life abused their kids, and now they're like trying to be a good parent, trying to solve the war and all this stuff. And this back and forth, and you're like, okay, like how about I'm just gonna go back in the past, fix their stuff, make sure it doesn't happen in the first place. You'll be happy, you stop from doing that, they're gonna stop from doing that, and we're gonna be fine. So like literally changing the mindset and trying to be like there to listen, to understand what's going on, and only then act and see what I can do about it. Mainly just sort of negotiating if I can, being the creator, like I can undo things, so create things and all this stuff. So like I get like a lot of respect from that, like which is like pretty cool. Like not everyone is like, yeah, like let's talk. I get the text and all this stuff. Like I'm just like trying to do the session. I'm getting like let's say being like now I have a headache out of the blue and all this stuff, and tracking down the source is easy enough and all this stuff. But variations, but yeah, pretty much respect a lot.
That's pretty cool. I mean, and you know, I guess it does make sense if you're a creator being, and in that equation, you're the one with the power, and people do respect that. It happens. I guess I just did imagine that at some point in time, someone would get ornery and test their luck. But it does sound like you wised up, because it sounds like I guess back in the day you were a young punk in the OBE world and just stretching your legs and seeing what you could do, and now you're just, you know, more mild mannered about it to get what you want. It's more efficient, I guess, technically, less energy on your part.
Definitely, yeah. It's so much easier to sometimes like you have like, let's say, clusters of entities and they're messing with people, and you just sort of like, how about instead of removing billions of you, I'm just going to create a separate world where we can live, and they're like, and instantaneously they leave the person because they have a better offer, and no need to destroy them, put them in a box, or like do some various techniques to get rid of them. Like they're like, you offer them like visualize a world, it's there, and they go and boom.
I got you. That's a good technique. Mm-hmm.
One of the phenomena you were asking, what if she just pops into a world? Are they like, wow? Right. Imagine this world, but an alternate version of it, where ghosts, dead people, or people from other planes of existence, other dimensions, astral planes or whatever, they can manifest here, and with full, you can't see through them. They just like look like regular people, but they materialized. But the population is used to it. I mean, maybe you don't see it every day, but when you see it, you know, somebody just materialized. Oh, it's one of those. That's a genie out of his bottle. He doesn't look like a mean one or an angry one. So, and some of them, it happens so much in some of these realms and fourth density reality and different reality systems, that humans like ourselves that can go out of body, we don't always go to the astral realms, many different versions of that, but we go to this other kind of a fourth density reality, main highway, super highway of life. And so you materialize there. But it happens so much that people are familiar with it, and it's not surprising or shocking. They just say, oh, oh, hello. Or, oh, you know, they just go, oh, and they just go about their business like, you know, a dog just showed up from around the corner. You know, they don't care. But you can engage them, and you go, excuse me, and they go, you know, different kinds will have different reactions. But you can engage them in conversation or just about anything. But normally, that's just like if you're a pedestrian or a tourist in these realms. Akvile is usually going on business, one kind or another,
Mostly, yeah.
or mission, we should say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's just, I guess it's just interesting too, like in like how you were saying earlier, Akvile, with the people that want to get out of body and into video games or whatever you were calling that. I forget the term. But boy, OBE does seem to provide a lot of variety for, I mean, beyond what any game producers are doing.
If you've seen that movie Oasis, like Ready Player One, it's
I think I did see Ready Player One.
yeah. It's pretty much like where the guy lives in the shacks but puts on virtual glasses and there's just billions of game choices and things he can do. Pretty much like that. It's like
Mhm.
you have a life here, but you get out and accept like that is the real place out there.
Mhm. So now, in addition to getting out of body, right? So you can get out of your body, but I believe there's something in the conversation about the potential of you getting into a different one. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
So
Let's
you
say-
could theoretically like exit, like, and just like you would enter a video game as a character and take on all the attributes of the character, you can also do that with your out of body skill set.
Yes.
Interesting.
Like some worlds that we go to might have their own rules. And for example, beings that live there, if they agree that like, okay, in this place we can teleport, but we're not flying, so that they wouldn't have traffic and stuff, but they can teleport and stuff. So that would be the thing. And I, for example, come in there, but I don't live in that world and I don't have their agreements, so I can teleport and fly. And sometimes I end up in the worlds where, like, let's say I pick out my avatar if I want to. Sometimes I already have it to sort of like, oh, like another aspect of me lives there, so I just tune into it, and now I'm in that body.
Mhm.
And now it's basically consciousness merging, where let's say that aspect either knew about me or not. Like we were talking with those points of like where we split like different like aspects and stuff. So let's say I connect that body, and now like consciousness merging, like merging two experiences, like everything I knew here and everything that part of me knew there, now we merge. It's not overwhelming. You sort of like can sort of filter anything out, but like the knowledge is like much greater. The understanding is much greater. Like there's a lot of things sort of like way better out there.
I could totally see that. I need to increase my OBE skills. Get back to where I used to be at. I remember feeling very empowered back in the day. Very much so. I thought it was one of the coolest things in the world to be like knowing you're dreaming. Knowing you can do whatever you choose at that moment, that your creative force is at maximum. That it's the limits are exclusively your imagination at that point. So I know it can be done because I did it, and now I just need to get back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a cool deal. I'm really happy to have chatted with you folks again today.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I am saying that we did pass a 2-hour mark, and it is on the night side for you folks. So I do not want to keep you up all night long. I'm just starting my day.
Okay. Yeah, this would be a good time. Hey, it's been great, man. I loved it.
Mhm. And I would like to take you guys up on that session. I know you guys are busy, but ASAP, because I'm just trying to gain ground with my experience, and the more steps that I make, the closer I get to the top is all. So at your convenience, but I would love to do it sooner than later.
Okay. We'll look into that. And we'll
Mhm.
get back. We'll get in touch with you after.
Absolutely. And then everybody go check out Akvile's YouTube page, please. And then definitely go check out richwest.net. He's got all kinds of information on there about what we were discussing today. And anybody that wants to increase their skill set can do these things. So check it out, learn what your true self is like, and then share that with everyone that you can. That's what I think.
Also, my YouTube channel is Rich2150X.
Excellent. Actually, you know what? I have that. I've subscribed to both of you, so I should. I'll put both of your links up as well, and I will also link that that third Eye Spies video for anybody who wants to see that one. So, folks, thank you very much for coming today and speaking with us from Alaska and Lithuania. We're broadcasting from around the world. Oh, and the cosmos too, because we had the info from the reptilian buddy. Oh, I wanted to ask you before we go, Akvile, where was that you said he was at?
Where? That's a good question.
Oh, I thought on the front end you had stated the location of where he was in proximity.
Oh, closer to the Orion, like closer to that vicinity.
Say that again.
Closer to Orion.
Closer to. Okay, I'll put that in the text then.
Exact location still secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that. I just. It was off of Earth, and I knew you had made some reference to a locale. So closer to Orion is fine. That way I could say we had a conversation with someone and we got some info from closer to Orion.
It's just fascinating what you can learn when you when you're working with her, and you can just ask all kinds of questions. And I love just exploring the spacecraft and talking to the occupants on the spacecraft.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, ego suit. I mean, that's like that's a conversation we could do a show for 2 hours discussing with the ego suit. That's profound. There's a lot of stuff going on right there. Like you literally put your skin on and it becomes, it's just hilarious. All right.
Well,
So I'm gonna kill this episode, and I look forward to chatting to you guys again. And keep safe, and we'll all make it through the craziness that's going on by chatting more. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for coming.